Welcome to the Getting High on Leadership series featuring Paul Karasik. Paul is one of America's top management consultants helping leaders succeed. He is the author of 9 books, including Sweet Persuasion and Brilliant Thoughts and Provocative Questions. His insights appear regularly in major publications, and he is one of the most sought-after executive coaches. Paul founded the American Seminar Leaders Association and the Psychedelic Institute of Los Angeles. He is a popular speaker at national conferences and has been on stages across all 50 states and internationally. Paul's work addresses the question, how can we transform conflict in business into collaboration? With decades of experience in management, leadership, and psychedelics, he brings a unique perspective on personal and societal growth. In this series, we'll be discussing his latest book, Getting High on Leadership, The Leader's Guide to Higher Consciousness. We'll be exploring the concepts, techniques, and mindset required to revolutionize leadership. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the series. My name is Sanchez, your host, and we are joined by the author of Getting High on Leadership, Paul Karasik. We are going through the book, talking about every section throughout the 3 parts of the book, and we are making our way towards the end of part 3 today with the section called Measuring Success. This can be found on page 130 of the book. And we've been talking about kind of some more universal concepts now that we've gone in and out through leadership and consciousness. I think looking at these global concepts of finding higher consciousness and finding success can be very challenging at first. But I think there's some simplicity in it that we've discussed in the previous section that we may be able to find some similarities here today. Paul, where can we begin with success as opposed to higher consciousness in our last chapter?
Well, I think we have to begin with what is success, to really, to make any sense of this, because success has so many different meanings, right, to everybody. In a literal sense, I would say it's an achievement of a goal. So to be successful, we wanted to do that, and we achieved success. And most times it's put in the context of the external. And what this chapter is pointing out, that we're measuring the wrong thing. Because, something we've mentioned in the past, that success on the material plane is pretty vacuous if you don't have success on the internal plane. How many times through my career have I seen people that have everything they need to be happy, that anybody in the world, in terms of material things and lifestyle and everything else, and yet they're so unhappy. They're to say they're successful is very difficult for me to say that when I look at their demeanor. They don't have what I want. If that's what success looks like, then I don't want it. Which is
not interested.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you see it when you see these great talented people commit suicide. People like Michael Jackson or Robin Williams, or just anybody that we thought had it all. The singers, the rock stars, that if you look, like everybody somewhere in their mind wants to be a rock star. I mean, we all, I don't care who you are, but even for a moment you said, I wish I was a rock star. And here they are, they're rock stars, and they check out. Because success is not just about the external. In fact, I think the point of this chapter is you measure success by the internal. Like how much peace do you have in your life? How much joy do you have in your life? How many great relationships? I just saw somebody, a friend of mine, his father died. And, he was such an angry man, and according to my friend, and he didn't really enjoy life, and he didn't even really enjoy all the money he had, and he had a lot of money. And what a waste. What a waste. You know, I have another friend. He owns
Where you
a
hit those, you kind of like hit those societal standards for success, but the internal success, that the balance is all off, right?
yeah, consciousness. Our internal world, however you want to put it, is really the true measure of success. Like,
That's where we
you know,
see in some situations people have to sacrifice some of that balance to keep climbing that ladder. That's never good to see the outcome of that after many years or after building a career, right?
the franticness, yeah, of never enough, of, no matter how much they get, they want more. And this one kind of family friend, he owns a mutual fund. When you own a mutual fund, you make a lot of money because, I mean, he's got millions and millions and millions. And he grew up similar to my brother-in-law in the Bronx and with no money. And my brother-in-law died, and so we had a little service for him. So he came to the service, and I didn't even recognize him. He had, with all that money, and we're talking a lot of money. His face was just so tortured and angry, and I almost didn't.
There
Even,
wasn't that serene complexion you'd
no.
expect from being
If
the
to
top
have
of your
all the
field.
money in the world, he's got all the money in the world, and
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have I don't have much money at all, but I feel really good today. I feel richer than he does with all his money because he's and he's changed his lifestyle. And you see this a lot where he's become more like less, doesn't talk to a lot of people, doesn't have very many relationships. My brother-in-law was one of his only friends in the whole world. And, they grew up together in the Bronx and they had all that background together. But man, I don't want anything he has. There's nothing.
You just really saw that difference, that stark contrast between who your brother-in-law was and who this guy who was in a very similar upbringing, right? They'd made different decisions. You almost saw that A and B life choice.
Yeah. Actually, I wasn't even talking about that, but you're absolutely right. Yeah, that the juxtaposition of, because Freddie, everybody loved Freddie because he had developed his inner world and his consciousness, and I kind of led the service, and different people came up and told really funny stories and touching stories, and about his generosity and about his giving and so on and so forth. And Freddie would give anything, and the other person with all of his money, he was cheap. He was so cheap. He was really cheap, and which is, I guess, not uncommon among really wealthy people that they're really cheap. I've heard that before.
But you really saw that measure of success, like especially when is the most important measure of success? Probably at the end of your time working and working and trying to be successful, whenever that time may be. And it's that measure where it's the things you brought up, like generosity and giving, and those things are coming to the table, not the tax returns or their investment portfolio or whatever else you may consider important at the end, right? And I think that it's important to acknowledge that right from the beginning, and not in a morbid sense, but just in like a preparatory way, right? You don't want to you don't want to look back and regret that, right? Or realize it's too late.
It's the point. Yeah, it's the point of the whole book. You can be a leader and be a real jerk and mistreat people, and that creates an energy all around you and in your life that's I don't want. Or you could create a team where everybody's more or less getting their needs met, in a sense, with collaboration, with recognition, with sharing, and we have that choice to make. We can choose one or the other. They're not exclusive. To be an open, conscious leader doesn't mean you're not going to be productive. As I've argued throughout this series, you'll actually be more productive people work harder, they work longer, they work later. They make personal commitments because they feel involved with it, as opposed to
Yeah.
just getting the thing. They're emotionally involved. Like I've said a few times, leadership is the transference of an emotion, and when the people get that emotional commitment and they care, you've got the greatest team in the world. That's just the facts, because they're going to make the right decisions. They're gonna want to see it get done successfully. So to get the external done at the highest level, we need to think about the internal and measure success by, if I've always said, I've done a lot of sales training. I always say happy salespeople sell more. They do. They do. When somebody's happy and they're out and they're a sales executive,
They're bringing that charisma to their transactions, to their interactions, that energy.
And they're not desperate. I got to make this sale, or blah blah blah. They're
I'm going to get fired or something.
Yeah, they're floating in their own success. They're feeling successful before they even try to make the sale, and then people feel that, and then they sell more. That's why I say happy salespeople sell more. Because they do. Yeah. It's not a matter of,
And that's also required for sales, to feel successful before you start, because Absolutely. You're going to fail a lot. You're gonna get told no constantly, and you need to carry that feeling of success through that.
Exactly. So just to put a bow on this chapter, Rob, it's about thinking about success on an internal level. Thinking about, like, that's the first point of success. Do I feel good about myself? Do I feel good about the people who are around me? Do I have peace of mind? Yeah. Am I empathetic, accepting? Am I reasonable? Am I forgiving? Because all those are things that poison us. And we may say, oh, I'm that, like we talked about before, I'm that way in business. No, it's not you're that way in business. You're that way. It just happens to be over there, but it's still, you are still that way. It doesn't matter if you're angry in business, you're angry. You are anger. If you're selfish in business and corrupt, you are corrupt. You can put whatever dress or suit you want on it.
Yes. Yeah.
But
it doesn't change it.
It doesn't change it. So the point here is to, live from the point of view of, if I take care of the inside, then the outside takes care of itself.
Yes. Yeah, wonderfully put there, Paul. And thank you to all of our listeners and viewers for joining us on today's episode. Feel free to pick and choose any previous episodes you'd like to see, or definitely feel free to start from the very beginning and catch up with us here. And as always, you can find a link to grab the book for yourself down below, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Getting High on Leadership series. If you have any questions, you can comment below or send them in via email to paul@paulkarasik.com. Follow him on Instagram at PK_The Conversation. Find out more at wholesalerinstitute.com and psychedelic-awakening.com. The Getting High on Leadership series is produced by Rob Sanchez and Apartment 113, which can be found at apartment113.com and followed on Instagram at APT_113.